After my final deployment, I spent weeks recovering in a military hospital while my husband enjoyed a vacation with his mistress. Not once did anyone from his family visit me or even ask how I was doing. Then 1 month later, my mother-in-law texted, "Sell your military medals. We need $15,000 for your sister-in-law's wedding." I sent her exactly $1 and replied, "Best wishes." 2 hours later, the day my mother-in-law texted me, "Sell your medals. We need $15,000 for Tansy's wedding." My left arm was still wrapped in thick bandages, and the only thing I could move without pain was my thumb. I stared at the screen for almost a minute. Not because I was surprised. Because I wasn't. My name is Eloan Hart. My husband was Garrick Rowan. His mother was Marceline Rowan. His younger sister was Tansy Rowan. The woman he chose over me was Bryony Keats. Those names would change my life forever. A month had passed since an explosion during my final National Guard deployment left me in a military hospital outside Nashville, Tennessee. 3 surgeries. 27 days of rehabilitation. Endless physical therapy. Nights filled with pain that settled deep into my ribs every time I breathed. During every single one of those days, Garrick never came. I knew exactly where he was. Florida. His vacation pictures were public. Blue water. White sand. Cocktails. Bryony smiling beside him while his arm rested around her waist like I had never existed. I opened my banking app. $1. I transferred exactly $1 to Marceline Rowan. In the payment note I wrote only 2 words. Best wishes. Then I locked my phone. 2 hours later. Garrick had called 17 times. Marceline left 6 furious voicemails. Tansy sent a message that simply said, "You are the most heartless woman I've ever known." For the first time in weeks, I smiled. I grew up outside Dayton, Ohio. My father repaired diesel trucks. My mother worked double shifts in a nursing home. We weren't poor enough for sympathy and never wealthy enough to feel comfortable. We simply worked. My father always said something that stayed with me long after he passed away. Never let anyone confuse your kindness with an obligation. I didn't understand him then. I did now. I met Garrick inside a Walmart. He dropped an entire gallon of milk while reaching for breakfast cereal. The plastic exploded across the floor. Milk ran everywhere. I laughed. He laughed. For 20 minutes we helped an embarrassed employee clean the mess together. That's how our story began. He worked at a tire shop. He wasn't particularly handsome. He wasn't rich. He wasn't impressive. He simply made me feel safe. Or maybe he only made me believe I was. We rented a tiny brick house outside Murfreesboro. The roof leaked whenever heavy rain rolled through. The dishwasher sounded like an old tractor. Our rescue dog barked at every squirrel that crossed the yard. It wasn't perfect, but it felt honest. Then everything slowly changed. My deployments became longer. Garrick lost one job after another. Bills piled higher on the kitchen table. The mortgage fell behind. Insurance premiums increased. Instead of looking for stable work, he spent more and more time with his mother. Marceline always had an opinion. Eloan cares more about strangers than family. She should leave the guard. A real wife stays home. The funny part, every emergency somehow ended with my paycheck solving it. Tansy's tuition. His brother's truck repairs. Church donations. Medical bills. Every problem landed on my shoulders. Every thank you disappeared before it reached my ears. I kept giving. Because I believed that's what marriage looked like. Then came my final deployment. Before I boarded the transport aircraft, Garrick hugged me tightly. "I'll be waiting." Those were the last honest-looking words he ever spoke to me. 3 weeks later everything exploded. We were evacuating civilians after severe flooding when an abandoned fuel tank ignited. The blast wasn't just loud. It was heavy. Like the sky itself collapsed. Heat swallowed everything. Metal screamed. Concrete shattered. Someone was yelling. Someone was praying. Then darkness. When I woke up, bright hospital lights stared back at me. My left shoulder had been reconstructed. 2 ribs were broken. Burns covered part of my back. A military nurse named Nadine Mercer adjusted my blanket. "Do you want me to call your emergency contact?" "My husband." She smiled. "I already have." Nobody answered. She called again the next day. Nothing. Nothing. 6 calls. No response. About a week later, another nurse accidentally opened social media while helping me with my phone. That's when I saw him. Garrick. Laughing. Holding Bryony. Standing on a Florida beach. Caption read. Finally taking the vacation we deserved. We. Not he. We. I handed the phone back. I didn't cry. Pain eventually reaches a point where tears simply stop coming. When I left the hospital, I couldn't even return home. The mortgage company had already started foreclosure proceedings. Garrick had emptied our joint savings account. $26,000. Gone. A veterans assistance organization placed me in a small rehabilitation apartment. Old carpet. Second-hand furniture. A refrigerator that hummed all night. The first evening I sat beside the window watching rain cover the parking lot. No husband. No family. No visitors. Just silence. Then Marceline's message arrived. Sell your metals. We need $15,000. Family comes first. So. I sent $1. Best wishes. That single dollar became the beginning of the end. 3 days later someone knocked on my apartment door. A woman stood there holding an envelope. My name is Isolde Barrett. I recognized the last name immediately. Her husband, Corwin Barrett, had served beside me during the explosion. You saved my husband's life, she whispered. Inside the envelope was a handwritten letter. Owen, you probably don't remember much. I remember everything. You dragged me through fire while you were bleeding yourself. You kept telling me not to close my eyes. Because of you, my wife still has her husband. My children still have their father. If you ever need anything, my family belongs to you. I read the letter 3 times. Then, for the first time since the explosion, I cried. Not because Garrick betrayed me. Not because his family abandoned me. Because complete strangers remembered my worth when my own family had forgotten it. That evening Isolde invited me to dinner. Their little home smelled like roasted chicken, fresh bread and cinnamon. Children argued over mashed potatoes. The television quietly played a baseball game no one was watching. It felt normal. Something I hadn't experienced in a very long time. After dinner Isolde looked directly at me. You keep saying you're alone. I nodded. She smiled. You're sitting in a house where 6 people would answer your phone call at 3 in the morning. Nobody had spoken to me with that kind of kindness in years. A week later, Garrick finally appeared outside my apartment. I made mistakes. I looked at him. You made choices. They're the same thing. No, they aren't. He tried blaming stress, money, his mother, our marriage, anything except himself. When I mentioned Bryony, he looked away. When I mentioned our savings, he became silent. When I reminded him that he never visited the hospital, he had absolutely nothing left to say. That silence told me everything. Isolde drove me to meet an attorney named Odessa Quinn. She wasn't loud. She wasn't dramatic. She simply followed paperwork. Hospital records. Bank statements. Military reports. Phone logs. Financial transfers. Then she looked at me. This isn't just a divorce. What is it? Your husband emptied shared accounts while you were medically incapacitated. He transferred money to multiple family members. Depending on intent, this may amount to financial exploitation. For the first time, justice didn't sound emotional. It sounded organized. Odessa gathered every document, every text message, every vacation photograph, every bank transfer, every lie. Then something happened that neither Garrick nor his family expected. My late father had quietly established a protected trust years earlier. Very few people even knew it existed. The funds weren't enormous. They weren't life-changing millions. But they were enough. Enough to eliminate my medical debt. Enough to stop the foreclosure. Enough to rebuild my life. Enough to make sure I never needed Garrick again. When the divorce hearing finally arrived, Marceline wore pearls. Tansy looked furious. Garrick looked exhausted. Bryony never appeared. Odessa calmly presented every piece of evidence. The ignored hospital calls. The missing money. The affair. The messages demanding I sell my military medals. When the judge finished reviewing everything, nobody in Garrick's family could meet my eyes. Outside the courthouse, Marceline blocked my path. You ruined this family. I looked at her calmly. No. I simply stopped paying for it. She had no answer. Months later, the divorce became final. The court ordered financial restitution. The truth became public. Tansy's expensive wedding quietly became a small community ceremony. Nobody ever asked about my medals again. Today I work part-time helping injured veterans rebuild their lives. Some arrive carrying debt. Some carry broken marriages. Some carry invisible wounds. Whenever one of them says, "I don't know where to start," I smile. I hand them a cup of terrible coffee. Then I quietly say, "Start here." My shoulder still aches whenever the weather changes. Some nights I still hear the explosion in my dreams. Life never became perfect. It simply became honest. Sometimes people ask whether I regret sending that single dollar. I always give the same answer. No. Because that wasn't the day I insulted my husband's family. It was the day I finally remembered my own worth.